Backpacking in Faith, a pilgrimage within the Christian community. I'm Katrina.
I'm Liz, and this is our journey. Hi. That was weird.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
This is our testimony. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Testimony. We're all about the Jesus. Woo!
You have to keep that in. That's hilarious. In fact, you should start every single podcast with that little bit of a jingle. Get some music behind it.
But they're not going to be all about testimonies.
No, I know.
When you meet me in life, I'll go, we're all about the Jesus. Woo!
All right. So we're going to be doing our testimonies.
You're going to do the testimony first.
I'm going to do mine.
In case you die.
In case I die. She's thrown me like a lamb to the slaughter. And you're going to do yours on the second podcast, aren't you?
Yes.
So just a little bit about me. I feel like
you should be enjoying this podcast because it's all about you.
I do like talking about me.
You get to talk nearly the entire time.
Yes.
All right. Your testimony. How did you come to Jesus?
How did I come to Jesus? Well, that's a very interesting story, Katrina. Let me tell you a bit about it. I'll say a bit about myself. So I'm one of 5. I've got one brother, one sister, and 2 half-sisters. My mother left my father when I was 7. Up until then, I'd had quite an idyllic childhood. I'd lived on a farm, a dairy farm, and life was pretty sweet. My best friend lived up the road. I went to a primary school in the middle of a village. It was lush. Life was pretty good. And then when my mother left my father, after having multiple affairs, she basically moved me around, and my brother and sister, because the 2 half-sisters weren't born at that time. She moved us around the country. We went from Gloucestershire up to Yorkshire, down to Wales, to Warwickshire. I moved around about 40 times in my life. And that's how many houses I counted once. I think I'm probably...
40 houses, did you just say?
Yeah, I've lived in 40 different houses. I went to 8 schools.
Why would you move 40 different houses? That must have been in the same area if you only went to 8 different schools.
No. Some of them were, yeah. I mean, we went...
What was the point of that?
Running away from debt a lot of the time, I believe.
But if you're in the same area...
I don't know. She would just move. My mother was a very accomplished liar. She changed her name quite often. She would apply for credit in slightly different names. I mean, you wouldn't get away with it these days. She committed fraud many times over. Even like coming down to changing my surname, she committed fraud because she forged a letter from my birth father to give permission, and she changed our names. She did whatever she wanted to do and just managed to get away with it.
Did that affect you when you got married and had to change your name?
Oh, massively. Yeah, massively. I've also had a few different surnames because I've been married twice, and I had a birth name and a changed name, and yeah, it's a pain, but yeah, well, whatever, you know. It's just a name. It's something you just have to get used to. It's a bit of a pain with passports and driving licenses and stuff, but visas when you're travelling abroad. But other than that, it's fine, really. Life was pretty hard growing up. It was the 80s, so there was a massive recession on. My stepfather studied rather than worked, and my mother popped out a couple more kids, and she was lazy, so... Sorry, that was really judgmental. She didn't want to work. That's my opinion. So she had a couple more kids. So there was 5 in total. And then when she was done having children, she went back to study, by which time my stepdad had got a job. But we'd gone from Gloucestershire to Warwickshire, so he'd do his BTEC. And then when he did his BTEC, we moved to Wales so he could do his degree. And then when he got his degree, we moved to Warwickshire for him to get a job, and then she started her studies. So there was a lot of moving around. I mean, literally, at one point we moved from one house to next door. Usually in every area we live in about 4 different houses each. In fact, I can't really remember all of them. I remember snippets of it. I couldn't give you the address of most of them.
Having moved that many times, you mustn't have had much for you personally. You know, as a child, it's easy to get a lot of things. Anything, really.
Yeah, not really. But then, I mean, that could have been to do with the times as well, because we were really poor. I mean, I was born in 1980, and we were dirt poor. Everybody was dirt poor. When I lived at North until, that's from 7 till about 11. So that's most of what I remember from my very young age. Not many people remember much before they're 7 anyway, do they?
I don't have a clue. I don't remember when I'm 7.
No, I don't remember. But, everybody was broke. So it wasn't even a thing. But life was pretty hard because, I was pretty much used as a skivvy. I had to do the ironing for the whole family at 11, 12 years old. I had to take time off school to pick up my sisters from school when they got a bit older.
By skivvy, do you mean maid?
Yeah, that's an English word. An unpaid maid. But it wasn't just the chores and stuff, because, every kid has chores. It was mainly myself that was picked on to do the chores until my sister got to a certain age, and then it was her. My brother was made to do stuff as well, but probably not as much, and I think that's probably just because he was a boy, and he was a lot more determined when he didn't want to do something. He would just stand. He's very stubborn. If he didn't want to do it, you couldn't make him do it. A bit like my eldest. But we all had it a bit rough because, my mother and stepdad's relationship was all about them as a couple, and we were really just on the side. It was a difficult childhood, and I never felt loved because my mother had so much time for my younger sisters and my stepdad, and she would drive a wedge between me and my brother and sister, because if she did, we would then be looking to her for support and for, so if my sister did something, I would grass on my sister because then my mum would praise me, and she would do the same with my brother and sister. So she really turned us against each other for a lot of years, which doesn't create a loving environment. So like with the chores, the debt and the responsibilities and the moving around and not seeing my father and being emotionally bullied by my mother, and it was the 80s, so you got a whack as well. If you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing, you get a hide in. Or my stepdad used to kneel us in the corner with our hands on our head for periods of time. We'd have punishments like having to cut the grass with scissors and just horrible jobs. It was quite mean. We didn't have a good childhood, and I think all the way through my childhood I was looking for love. Because I saw my other friends had it. My friends who their parents obviously loved them. Even my friends who were from broken families, their dad loved it when they went to see them, and they'd love to go home, and it was all very loving. And so then I started going to a Sunday school. I can't even remember how I found it, because I would have to literally go in the car for about 20 minutes. It was 20 minutes outside of where I lived. So maybe it was through a friend at school, little Kimmy. She was so skinny. I think she went there.
That's something, because you were really tiny.
Yeah, I know. How things change. And it was a Pentecostal church. And I remember there was a guy there who trained Jeff Capes. You won't know who that is.
I have no idea.
He was like a bodybuilder in the 80s, late 80s.
Okay.
He went there. But the church was lovely. It was always very lively, and I always felt really welcomed. We would go out and do our kids stuff, and then he lived in the same village as me actually, so we would walk up there on a Friday night and have a youth club, but didn't go there that long because by the time I kind of got settled in, it was time to move again. So that was that. And then when we moved to Wales after that, and I heard the guy who was the youth leader there called Jay. I loved him so much. He was such a loving youth leader. It's weird. I was like 10, but I remember feeling loved by this guy, not like in a wrong way, but he just cared. And isn't that odd that, I think back to my childhood and I feel so unloved at home, but occasional meetings at this guy's house, Jay's house, I felt so much love.
Yeah, that's nice.
Odd. Yeah, it was fantastic. Well, I heard he suffered from just terrible, terrible migraines actually, and I heard that he'd lost his faith and walked away from Jesus. So when we moved to Wales, I started going to a couple of churches on and off, here and there. Went to one for quite a while, and again I had the same sort of loving environment, but that was only at the youth group, not really the church. And I had a mad crush on a boy that went there. Absolutely loved him. Not quite the right reason to go to church, but I think I wasn't.
You went with love in mind.
I wasn't looking for Jesus and going to church. I was looking for love. I now know they're the same. Not the kind of love that I was feeling for Craig. But I was just looking for love and acceptance and, stuff I wasn't getting at home. I don't want to go too much into what my childhood was like because my mother died last year, and whilst I didn't have a relationship with her, I know my siblings did, and I wouldn't want to upset them by saying too much. But needless to say, my childhood was hard and it was upsetting, and it took a lot of years to deal with. In fact, when my youngest was 1, that's when I was living in Gloucester, and I met Judy at a local toddler group. I was trying to get him out there. You know, we'd recently moved to the area, didn't know anyone. So I met Judy at this toddler group, and she was really lovely, and everyone seemed nice enough. And she said, I'm running this Becoming a Christian course. She said, do you want to come along to it? And I was like, no, I kind of had a bit of experience with Christians so far and never really found what I was looking for. So, no, I'm happy where I am, thanks. And she's like, oh, you sure? You know, there'll be cake and a free creche with soft play. And I was like, whoa, you had me at cake. So she ran that for a few weeks, and that's where I met you.
We clicked on her straight away.
Yeah, we did. You know, our kids were similar sort of ages. I think you were expecting the second one by then. Yeah, and we got on fantastically. The course was life-changing for me. It wasn't the contents of the course that so much sold me, if I'm doing inverted commas. Inverted comment. Oh my God, commas, inverted commas. There wasn't the content of the course that sold me, or even the pointers that Judy was going off to create conversations.
I don't even remember the contents of the course, really.
No, and I think that's very significant. So Judy was talking about how she fell in love with this boy and she thought she wanted to marry him, but it didn't work out. And she now knows why, because, you know, she wouldn't have been where she was today without it. And then she was telling me how she'd prayed for these red boots. Do you remember that story?
I remember this story.
And she got the red boots.
She got the red
boots. Spoiler
alert.
I should have said that. She got the red boots, and she was chuffed. And it was a definitive moment in her faith, because she knew God was listening, because there was no way she could have got the boots otherwise. And I remember having a conversation with her afterwards saying, you know, well, it all sounds fantastic, but in reality, what I need, God isn't going to provide. She said, well, what do you need? And I said, well, I'm skint. She said, well, this is what I would do if I were you. Pray. Ask God for what you need. Give him a specific amount. You know, add up your bills, add up your debt, add up what you need to spend, get a specific amount and pray for it. And I was like, yeah, it just sounds a little bit too easy, a little bit too convenient, and I'm pretty sure religion's not supposed to be either of those two things. But I thought, you know what have I got to lose? Because at that point, we'd just moved to the area, like I said before, because we'd been offered a new house. We were on the housing association, and we were living in a grotty little flat, and we'd been offered a brand new house, so we had to move. And Matt worked across the other side of town, and he couldn't drive, and I couldn't afford a car, so he was relying on a lift from a work buddy that worked just up the road. At that point, we had no house phone because we just moved in. We had no credit because we had no money to put on our phones. So he walked up for his lift. I can't remember. It was a Friday, and the office is shut on a Friday. So he'd walked up for his lift. His lift wasn't there. He waited around for half an hour, 45 minutes. And then thought, right, well, I've got to go home. Came home, told me, and I said, well, you need to phone in, because it was a Japanese company and they're super strict. If you don't follow the rules, that's it. They'll boot you out. So he had to come home to get the money to make a phone call, because he didn't have any money on him. Even if it had occurred to him to phone them while he was up there. So he had to walk to the nearest payphone. So by the time he got up there, everyone in the office had gone home for the day.
Oh.
So we left a message to say, look, my lift hasn't turned up, and I don't know how to get hold of him. Oh no, he did have his phone number. He phoned him up. So he tried to phone the guy, find out where he was, no answer. Anyway, it turned out that the guy had gout. He'd had a massive bad flare-up of gout when he was visiting his mother a couple of days before, and he was actually stranded up country without his phone. No way of contacting Matt. So I mean, it wasn't the guy's fault, but as a result, because Matt didn't get to phone in before the office staff had gone home, they assumed he didn't turn up and they fired him. We later found out that it was more to do with numbers because they were laying off and it was an excuse to fire someone. But because they'd fired him and our youngest was really little, we didn't have a second income to fall back on. We literally had no money, so we both started looking around for jobs. Couldn't find anything, and of course in this country there is a benefits system to fall back on when things like this happen, so we put in for the benefits,
but you don't get them straight away.
You don't know, it takes about 6 weeks, and we didn't have any savings. All the savings we had just gone into putting carpets down in the place that we just moved into. So we didn't have any family to call on. I mean, we've got Matt's family, but, you can't just keep going to family for help all the time. So we thought we'd just have to manage. And Christmas was coming up. I'd left the Christmas tree in the last house because it was crap. And I wanted to buy a new one. So we had no decorations for Christmas. Had no money for Christmas presents. Had no money to pay the bills. We were only just paying the bills. Had no money for food. We're totally, totally broke. So when Judy tells me, all you've got to do is pray and ask and God will provide, I was like, yeah, all right. If it was that simple, why isn't everybody else doing it, But I thought on what she'd said for a couple of days. Actually, I think it was probably until the next week. And then she said the same thing again. And the way she'd said it, something she'd said really made me think, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. I've got the man I love. He's the love of my life, and I've got 2 healthy children, and I've got a roof over my head. But how anything else is going to be resolved, I have no idea, because there's just nothing around. Matt was on all the agency lists trying to get work. So I prayed, and when I prayed for a specific amount. I can't remember. I want to say it's something like 1,250 or something like that. It was a
very specific amount. I remember you saying.
Yeah, very specific amount. I didn't tell anyone this because I felt stupid.
You wrote it down, didn't you?
Yeah, I wrote it down, but I didn't tell Judy. I didn't tell anyone at the course. I didn't tell Matt because I felt like an idiot. But at the same time, I thought there's something in this. And over the course of the week, so when I prayed, I said, God, if you're really there, if you love me, you're going to help me because I can't help myself. I've got no mum, no dad to help. We can't get any help anywhere else. It's desperate. Christmas is just going to be awful. I don't know how I'm going to feed my children. This is what I need. If you're there, I'm going to need the money. I'm going to need it by Tuesday. And so I can't remember what day of the week it was, but it was about 5 or 6 days. And I remember over the 5 or 6 days, it was like Christmas. I was so excited because
the anticipation.
I was so.
Who's this coming?
I'd really, at that point, after I prayed it, I really was feeling it. I was like, there's something in this. I'm feeling like this is going to happen. And then in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe not. But by Monday evening, I was like, it's Tuesday, 12 o'clock at night. I think I must have checked my bank balance on, must have gone to the cash point. Yeah, I did. I sent Max at 12 o'clock on the Monday night, ran to the cash point, Tesco's, go and check the balance. He said, no, but the balance is still -0. And I was like, no, well, it's only just Tuesday, it's fine. And so Tuesday came and there was no change to any financial situation. Had nothing. When the post came, I was waiting for the post to come. There was no cheeky check. There was no random payment into our bank account. There was no cash. It just appeared. I was like, wow. I felt like I'd been kicked because I'd literally been anticipating this day all week. I'd really believed that God was going to provide this amount of money. I was devastated. And I was so upset that when I went on Wednesday lunchtime, the day after, to the group, I was so cross at Judy. I was like, why did you feed me this line of bullshit? I spent all week getting my hopes up that there was this power, this God that could turn my life around, and to have nothing. So I was really pissed off by the time I saw her on Wednesday. I was like, I'm so upset. And I started crying. And she's like, oh, no, sit down. What's the matter? I was like, I can't believe you told me that because, I thought God was there and I thought he was listening and I thought he was going to help me and he wasn't. And and you lied. And she's like, whoa, stop. She said, firstly, I need to apologise. So I was supposed to come and see you yesterday, but I got distracted. My hairdresser popped round. So I'm really sorry. I ran out of time and I couldn't get round to see you. I had something I wanted to give you. And I was like, well, do you know what, Judy? That ship has sailed. And she was like, no. She went into her handbag and she got this envelope. She gave me this envelope. And I was like, all right, this is interesting. I opened the envelope and there's a cheque for 1,250 something. The exact amount. The exact amount to the penny that I'd been asking for. Oh, wow. I was absolutely...
Did you fall to your knees?
Internally, I was absolutely gobsmacked. I told Judy I was praying for money. I had not told Judy how much I needed. I hadn't told her how much... I'd gone home and written it all out. This is how much I need for this. This is how much I need for Christmas. This is how much I need for a tree. This is how much I need to pay this bill. This is how much money I need to buy groceries until the benefits come in. That was my list, and that nobody saw that list. And I was absolutely... You could have kicked me in the stomach, and I would not have been any more. I felt winded. I was like, in a good way. It was just mental. I was just absolutely astounded. And I thought it was hilarious. That's God's... Well, look, God not only exists, but he's got a cracking sense of humour. To me, that was God saying, I'm here, and I'm going to help you when you come to me in faith. But don't expect me to do it on your time. I have my own time, and I have my own way of doing things. Which was a very important lesson that I needed to learn from day one, because I think if I'd have got the money on the day, I may have been a little bit like, hey, here we go. I just ask whatever I want and I just get it.
It's like a genie in a bottle.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not what it was. This was God saying, you've put your faith. You have come to me and you have all faith that this is going to happen. And I did. Genuinely did. So God rewarded me because it's what I needed for my faith. Not rewarded, but that's what he's done. He's a father, you know. That's what they do. And apparently, I don't know.
I think it also helped you because Judy was supposed to give it to you on Tuesday.
Yes.
She was supposed to. She said specifically,
yeah,
I was supposed to do this Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
So not only will God provide, but it's not all down to God.
No.
Because you then had to rely on
Judy.
Listening to God.
Yeah.
And
she said it was the weirdest thing because she was praying and she just felt like God told her. Well, God told me that this is how much to give you. I was praying and I felt like God said, hey, Judy, give Liz this money. Give her this amount. I had not told her. I'd gone home and written it down on the back of an envelope, a scrappy envelope.
I believe you. You don't have to tell me. I believe you. How long till you got baptised after that?
It wasn't long after that, because after that was to me, because...
That was before Christmas.
Yeah.
And you got baptised after Christmas.
No, it was a little bit longer than that.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was the next year?
Yeah.
It was still cold?
It was the spring.
Oh. Well, it was still cold.
But it had just a massive change on my life, because all of a sudden I had this Heavenly Father.
Did it make you change your behaviour?
Massively. So
was it like an overnight bam?
No
change.
No. Do you know what it was like? So I would feel like God was whispering stuff to me. So not like I was a psycho, but for example, not long after I'd become a Christian, I had a lot of anger towards my mother. Before I became a Christian, I hated her. I would have told her if she'd have dropped dead, I wouldn't have cared, and I had no love for her. So angry after years of such an abusive, horrible relationship that I felt God say to me, you need to forgive. I forgive you. You need to forgive. And I was like, oh, God, you are kidding me. Her. Really? But it was such a powerful word that there was no way I could get around it. There was no sort of half-assed. And it wasn't a quick, oh, I forgive you, because that's not genuine. It was a gradual, okay, right, I'm going to forgive her. I'm trying to forgive her. I'm trying to forgive her. I've almost forgiven her. Okay, I forgive her. And I forgive her. Like I say, she died last year. We had a couple of years of trying to mend a relationship, but it was very difficult because of who she was as a person. And I'm sure I wasn't perfect. But I forgive her, and I love her, and I hope that she's not writhing in the pits of hell. I hope she's turned up and God's managed to find something in her, some redeeming quality. Do you know what? As far as I'm concerned, it's not even on my radar because she's in God's hands.
Yeah.
Whichever way, whatever's happened, it's down to God. So yeah, it had a massive effect. It wasn't just that all of a sudden I was forgiving people who were awful to me. I was trying to make a conscious decision to live a Jesus-centered life. So I would make a decision based on putting Jesus in the middle of it. So even silly things like, oh, shall I go over to so-and-so's house? I'd pray on it, and then I'd think, how do I feel about that? And if there was any part of me that's like, no, I probably shouldn't go, then I wouldn't go. That may seem a bit silly, but I wasn't always down on my knees praying about it. But I think you do get to that habit of going and listening to, that bit in your chest when God speaks to you, you feel it.
Yeah.
It's not indigestion, but it's around that sort of area.
It's a weird feeling because it's not your heart.
No.
And it's not your gut.
It's your soul. I feel like it's... So when even from the very beginning, I've always tried to have Jesus right there in my soul. So when I make a decision, I know when something's wrong and when something's right. When Jesus doesn't want me to do something. I mean, sometimes he don't care. I don't get a feeling at all. I think forgiveness has been the biggest change. Walking towards being in the place where I want to be. Being a good Christian, being a good follower of Jesus. Don't get me wrong, I've made massive mistakes throughout the years, even as a Christian. I have been judgmental and quick-tempered and unkind and selfish and a bit of a dick. But I'm a human and I'm trying to do better. And that's all that's all I can say. I think, I don't know if I'll ever be at a point where I'll be happy with who I am as a person. Because when you've got Jesus on the pedestal, which is basically the only person that can go on a pedestal, you've got a lot to live up to, a lot to measure up to, and I don't think anybody's ever going to be at that point where they go, yeah, you know what, Jesus, I'm ready, I'm good. I mean, God knows what I'm going to have to be answerable to. But it's not just been my attitude that's changed being a Christian. I remember saying to somebody once, I am so blessed. This was a non-Christian friend of mine. And at the time, we were broke. We were living in a council house.
Let's just be clear. God did not... He only gave you that one little bit.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
He led you. You were still broke.
Yeah, we were still broke, but...
And in our review of the Heavenly Man, or the Yun,
yeah,
still broke.
Yeah, yeah.
God is... The idea that God is going to provide
to every little whim.
No. And put you in a mansion.
Yeah.
Is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, after...
Maybe you will end up in a mansion, but that doesn't happen to everyone.
No. Well, after that, I got a job, which I felt like God told me to walk out of, actually. I was having a really difficult time with the way that some of the staff were bullying the other staff, and I'd spoken up. And I felt like it was the worst place for me to be. And I prayed about it. And I felt like God said to me, walk out, trust in me, and I will provide. So I walked out. The next day, Matt got a job. I mean, if we'd have been seriously up the creek if that's not what God was saying. Because we wouldn't have been able to get any benefits. Because if you walk out of a job, you're up the creek without a paddle. But Matt got a job the very next day. And my life has been like a sequence of events like that, crying out to God in times of despair. And he's like, whoa, I'm here. Didn't need to wait till you were in despair, but I'm still here. That's what we do though, isn't it? We're like, oh yeah, love God. Oh my God, help. But I remember saying to this friend, I'm so blessed because I've got 2 fantastic children. I've got a nice house, roof over my head. Matt's got a job. And she went, what? You think you're blessed? I was like, well, yeah. She So, but you're broke, and Matt's got a shit job, and what have you got to be blessed about? I remember thinking, gosh, I just feel sad for you. If that is, I mean, that was one of the emotions I was feeling. The other one was like, damn, you're so rude. But the other one was like, I just pitied her. She couldn't see that I was blessed. I mean, there are people out there with such awful health problems, with way more debt problems than we had at the time. You know, in abusive relationships. I mean, the sad thing is, not long after that, well, about 2 years after that, her own child died, didn't it?
That's so sad.
It's awful. And
but she's blessed now because she has had another little girl.
But I don't think she ever saw having a child that is healthy as a blessing before that.
No. Well, I only met her after, and she was just broken.
Oh, you didn't meet her before?
I didn't meet her before the baby. I met her after, and she was broken.
Yeah.
Well, she was broken before that, but she was really,
yeah,
really in pieces, broken.
Yeah. I don't know. I think where I'm at now. I think
before you were Christian,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you feel broken, unwhole?
Yes.
In pieces. And then afterwards, like right now, do you feel whole?
I do. I always had a reason behind why I was unbroken, though. I always thought I understood what was missing in my life. I always thought, well, maybe it's because I don't have a mother in my life. Maybe it's because I don't have a father in my life. And my biological father came back in my life, and my life still wasn't whole. Yeah, I always thought I understood what the hole that was in my life, in my heart was. And actually it wasn't until I came to know Jesus that I knew what was missing. You know, when things get hard, I've got a father, I've got a Heavenly Father to go back to. I've got a guidebook for life, you know. It's not very detailed. Day-to-day struggle, what do I do in this scenario, you know? I think the place I'm at now is I'm fully aware how much further I've got to go to be in a place where I'm happy with. Like when we were listening to our first attempt at a podcast, our first podcast, not attempt, it was our actual first podcast. I felt quite ashamed afterwards because I thought, you know, I sound judgmental. I don't think I'm judgmental, but maybe I am more than I realise. And I took a couple of days to sort of process everything I'd said. So where I'm at the moment is that I'm a work in progress and I want to be better. Please forgive me for any stupid stuff I say.
We're working through this the same as anyone else.
Yeah. I think when you put yourself out in public, though, I think it becomes a little bit more...
scrutinised.
Yeah. And I don't mind, you know, scrutinise away. All I can say is if I've offended anyone, I apologise. It's not my intention. I've got issues I'm still working through, you know, like with my half sister. I'm still trying to find the place where I can love her. But otherwise, life's pretty sweet. That's good. I'm so blessed. Sometimes I feel a bit sort of ashamed at how blessed we are. Exciting. Life's exciting.
It's exciting when you put it in God's hands because you never know where He's going to lead you.
Yeah. So I think we'll probably wrap this up and we'll do yours next, shall we?
We'll do mine next time on Backpacking in Faith.
If you could just go a bit more mutual edgy, you know.
I don't even know who that is.
No, I just made the name up. That's what I do.
Next time on Backpacking in Faith. Join us as we talk about Katrina's testimony.
All right, bye. Laters.
Bye.
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 No, I got out the last bye.
I cannot. I'm sorry. Go on.
Bye. Bye.